Hello and welcome to Procrastination Points video Snark. I read bad books so that you don't have to. I'm continuing my review of Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 5. The chapter starts off with Juliet giving us a tiny bit of her backstory. She mainly just remembers her parents screaming at her. We still don't know what she can do, but it revolves around touch. Her parents hated her for that, and all of Juliet's life has been spent trying to live up to standards that she would literally never be able to reach. Juliet says that it's snowing and that she prefers the cold to the hot, mainly because there's apparently no temperature controls in this place and she feels like she was being baked alive during the summer. That and the heat bakes all of the sewer lines and everything just stinks. I want to put this fist attached to my wrist right through the window. I'm confused. Does she have fists attached to other body parts? Why did the author feel the need to spell this out for us? I have no idea which day of the week it is, what month we're in, or even if there's a specific season we're supposed to be in. She literally just said that it's cold and snowing, but can't even begin to guess at what season it is. This is followed up by saying that sometimes the weather is wonky, that sometimes it snows randomly, sometimes in the middle of winter it's 92 degrees. So I guess that maybe I can understand her seasonal confusion. A little. But I'm still not really on board with the entire thing. You mean to tell me that it could just start snowing in July? Uh-huh. This continues on by saying that the world around them was dying. Animals were starving and willing to eat literally anything. People were also starving, so they ate animals that had been poisoned. And again, I feel like this would be better if it wasn't just a solid textbook and zero follow-up to any of this. I get world building, but there's a difference between dropping world-relevant information and just randomly telling people stuff for no real reason. That's called info dumping. Adam asks if they only just get one meal a day. Juliet says that if they're lucky, they might get two. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to the meal systems. They get fed when they get fed. Adam is randomly surprised by this. However, thanks to Juliet's earlier inner monologue, I can't say that I'm surprised that they're barely feeding the kids and only letting them out to use their restroom once a day. Juliet also goes on to reestablish to Adam that she hadn't spoken with anybody once since she was put in there, and again, I feel like the book is so focused on showing us something aesthetically pleasing that it's kind of throwing any sort of good writing out the window. The parts in the opening chapters about Juliet not speaking to anybody for the entire 9 months she's been in there could have been completely cut and only just explained to both the readers and Adam at the same time, rather than this tedious recap of stuff that was told to us in the previous 4 chapters. Adam tries to ask Juliet where her family is, but she quickly asks why he's there. We then establish that both parties think that the other is unstable and violent, and that Adam was put in the cell as punishment. For him, it's the thought of being put in there with a psychopath. Juliet doesn't remind us of her earlier thoughts about Adam being sent to kill her, which surprises me considering how much of this chapter is pointless recap. What's it like? I asked, each word quieter than the one before. Outside. In the real world. Is it worse? She says this like she hasn't even been in there for an entire year. They then talk about something called the re-establishment, which I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's our oppressive government regime du jour, because no dystopia is complete without one. He says the inhabitable land left in the world has been divided into 3,333 sectors, and each space is now controlled by a different person of power. That is an oddly specific number, and way too many people in power. I know that this is a dystopia, but remember what I said in the first video about there being a line between believable fantasy and so far removed that there's no rhyme or reason to it? And once more, this is so far into the latter that you can't even see reality anymore. For the record, there are only 195 countries in the world right now, and the idea that there's even less livable land than there is currently, but it was somehow divided up like 17 times more than it currently is just baffling to me. Anyway, Adam and Juliet have this conversation about the re-establishment, except that there's no quotation marks and only just random tags at the end to indicate that somebody was speaking. Again, I feel like the author threw out all and any writing rules for the sake of whatever weird aesthetics she wanted to have, to the point where this literally becomes an incoherent mess. Rather than to actually take us back to a tipping point of the re-establishment going out and murdering protesters, instead Juliet just thinks purple prose about what she remembers. And I get that it's tragic and terrible, but at the same time, this is a story, darn it. How are the readers supposed to feel anything other than irritation if the only thing that we get is blood being compared to lipstick? You think that I'm joking about that? I see dead, 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 red and burgundy and maroon and the richest shade of your mother's favorite lipstick all smeared into the earth. Those are pretty words if this is poetry night at the bookstore, but using this kind of flowery language to describe a massacre isn't exactly helping to set the scene of how bad that things were. But Adam goes on and says that the re-establishment is struggling to maintain the power and to take control over everything, which is probably where Juliet and Adam come in. He also says that the government is destroying everything from books to artifacts, and I kind of get the feeling that the author is just absently going down a checklist of dystopian tropes without any real understanding of why things like book burnings are powerful moments in history. Their conversation is cut off when food arrives. As they're waiting for the tray to cool down, Adam will not stop getting into Juliet's personal space, because this is what this book needed: creepy undertones of rape culture and a romantic lead who doesn't understand the meaning of the word no. Chapter 6. The chapter opens with, I don't even know, and I'm exhausted just trying to think about the rest of the book being this confusing. Forget about the rest of the series. I think that it's some sort of children's nursery rhyme, and I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to think about this anymore. 2 weeks have passed, which is good because Juliet and Adam sitting around a prison cell doing nothing is getting really old really fast. We are 6 chapters into a 50-chapter book. Adam doesn't touch her. Juliet watches the guards marching around in all sorts of foul weather. She wishes that she could see a bird, but they don't seem to exist anymore, at least not the way that we know birds. Adam asks her what she's writing while he wraps a blanket around her shoulders. She tells the readers that she's freezing, but not Adam. He asks if she's writing a book, but that one she answers, even if it is in the negative. He tells her that the government is going to destroy all languages and recreate them, and that in the future, writing like Juliet is doing will be illegal. Which, calm down there, you Aurelian Stan. This is insanely upsetting to Juliet, who thinks that the government is taking things too far, that it won't be long before everybody is an interchangeable number. His touch is scorching my skin through layers of fabric, and I inhale so fast my lungs collapse. The author does realize that this is exceptionally life-threatening and needs immediate medical attention, right? Oh, but she's so caught up in her pretty little metaphors that she forgets basic biology. Fail. If simply being touched by Adam makes both of her lungs collapse, I'm almost afraid to find out how this relationship is going to play out. She'll probably literally drop dead if Adam tries to kiss her. Adam thinks that Juliet needs to be comforted, so he takes her into her arms and tells her that it'll be okay. She loves the heat from his body and will not stop saying the word thaw. But after a moment, she jumps away from him and says over and over that he can't touch her. He demands to know why, and I feel like this is sending up so many red flags right there. I don't care that they're locked in a prison cell together. If somebody says, "Don't touch me," you don't get to ask for the details of why not. Juliet then tells Adam that he doesn't know her, that 2 weeks together doesn't mean that he gets to say and do stuff to indicate otherwise. She asks why he's in there, and he reminds her that he's been asking her over and over since he first got there. He says that they're seemingly the only 2 people in there, and he would like to talk to her sometimes. You can talk to me, just don't touch me. 7 seconds of silence join the conversation. Maybe I want to touch you. How hard is it to respect people's boundaries? If Adam refuses this one request, I don't exactly have a lot of hope for him moving forward with the actual romance aspect of this series. There are 15,000 feelings of disbelief hole punched in my heart. That is a really specific number, but as I'm starting to realize is that the author seems to enjoy randomly specific numbers. Juliet is just floored at Adam's inability to respect her enough to not touch her like she'd asked, and then they get into an argument about this because this is apparently something that needed to be fought about. Again, how hard is it to respect people's boundaries? I'm really starting to hope that Adam isn't the endgame relationship because I kind of want to drop kick him into the sun. Juliet then randomly thinks that she remembers Adam from 3 years before. but that it's clear to her that he doesn't remember her. Chapter 7. Juliet muses about a bunch of ordinary things that she remembers with the implication that they're not around anymore. Instead of borrowing from 1984, the author seems to now be taking from Handmaid's Tale. I'm going to scream if the downfall of society happened within the span of Juliet's lifetime and for no real reason. In the same kind of tone she uses to explain that food eventually got so expensive that people started dying on the streets, she says that Adam has stopped talking to her, because this is a girl who has her priorities straight. She thinks about the horror her parents faced, how they made her undergo all of these medical tests, which is honestly more than I can usually ask for in a lot of books I read, so kudos for including the fact that their first solution was not to lock her up. And then, because I guess even the author was bored with her own story, just 43 pages in, a bunch of people come into the cell and point guns at them. They yell out a lot of orders, and one of them hits Juliet with a gun so hard that she falls on the floor and struggles to get up. My organs are dead. So, how is she still alive, even? For that matter, how in the world has this girl managed to make it this far in life if everything that makes her even a little upset literally seems to shut her entire body down? Juliet thinks that the reason why they're there is because they're releasing Juliet, that the only reason why Adam was put in at all is because they're going to release her, which I guess that none of this needs to make sense when you're dealing with a mental patient, but sure. Juliet is so disconnected from reality that she starts laughing and doesn't even realize that she's doing so until the guards make a comment about it. Well, okay then, that just happened. Chapter 8. Juliet wakes up 2 days later to find herself alone. How she knows that 2 days passed is beyond me, but whatever. She isn't sure what happened was real except that the bruises on her body prove otherwise. A guard comes in to get her and takes her outside. There, Adam is waiting with a gun and orders her to move. Juliet is more upset over the idea of Adam betraying her or whatever is going on here than the fact that these guys are waving guns in her faces, because this is a girl who sure has all of her priorities straightened out. They take her to a room where she's randomly pushed so that she falls on the floor again. A guy who smiles evilly, holds her by the hair and taunts her some, says that she couldn't even cooperate with her cellmate, which, really making a good cause for whatever you're selling here, giving her absolutely no reason to remotely want anything to do with you. She was literally dying in that cell, but sure, threatening her with a gun ought to convince her. They call Adam over and Juliet is just struggling to understand what is happening. Seems like they put Adam in Juliet's cell to get info? Except, as I previously said, there's literally nothing in it for Juliet. They're either going to let her die in their cell or kill her now. The chapter ends with them saying that they have a proposition for Juliet. But I guess that we'll be reading about what that is next time. At this point, the only thing that I have to say about this is that this is way more exciting than most of the books that I've read for YouTube. Something is actually happening. There is actual plot. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because sometimes I drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to support me. The first is watching this video as well as all of my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. And if you've already read all of my main Snarks, then you can find even more Snarks on my Patreon. You can access it for $1 a month. Plus, you also get early access to my main Tumblr Snark. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snark so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $3 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well. $3 for every 5,000 words. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of erotic short stories and one full-length novel. I also sometimes run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do that just so you know when I might be offering more things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys.